Welcome to Policy on Demand. I'm Sindhu Bloom.
And I'm Scott McCandless. It's the week of January 29th, and this is your Monday briefing. The House and Senate will both be in session this week, with the House possibly considering the tax package that was approved by the Ways and Means Committee on January 19th.
So, Scott, all eyes are on this tax bill, and I think if you're in the tax world, all eyes are on the tax bill. So we're hearing that it could pass the House on a suspension vote as soon as tomorrow, Tuesday, January 30th. What needs to happen for that to take place?
Sure, great question. So our worry was last week, with the House being on recess, that there might be some criticisms of this bill that would arise, and that seems to have happened a little bit. And in some cases, it's frankly misinformation. In some ways about the child tax credit, in some ways about the pay for that would end the employee retention tax credit, and the extent to which those things have some mechanisms in there and the way in which they're understood. For instance, with the child tax credit, there's a concern that some payments might be duplicable, might go to some otherwise ineligible families, and or might go out later in the year, such that there might actually be political ramifications if those payments are going to people closer to the election in November. Some of those are real, some of those are not, but they're perceived to be real and therefore need to be dealt with. So there's been some blowback on Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Jason Smith, and somewhat on Speaker Johnson as well. So there's an open question as to whether those forces have operated such that they won't go to a vote, or will they still proceed? It looks like they will still proceed. Remember, this bill came out of the Ways and Means Committee 40-3, an enormously powerful vote. The House in whole looks like it could similarly deliver a large vote in favor of this bill. And that seems to be able to give it enough momentum to get over some of the concerns that arose over the last few days.
Okay, and how does strong passage in the House affect the Senate consideration of this bill?
Enormously important. The Senate has been where, to a certain extent, there have been weak knees. Some Republicans and some Democrats, for varying reasons, have expressed some trepidation about moving forward on this bill. If it comes over from the House with a very strong vote, I think that will lay to rest some of the concerns, because some of them are political. If the House has not only a strong vote, but a strong bipartisan vote, as Ways and Means itself did, I think that will send a signal to the Senate that this needs to happen and perhaps get it over any remaining hurdles.
And Scott, one question we've been hearing a lot is the political implications of this bill. And I'm pleased to say that joining us to talk about that a little bit more is Rohit Kumar. Rohit, welcome.
Sure, happy to try to join you.
So there has been a lot of conversation around this bill, if it passes, that it is basically handing the White House to the Democrats. Is that what you're hearing? And what is your perception on it?
Yeah, so I've heard that, and I've asked the question, is there some concern that if this bill gets signed into law, that Republicans are accidentally electing a Senate Democrat who might otherwise lose, or accidentally helping Biden get reelected? And I have been met with just sort of head shaking, like that's not really a thing. We're not worried about that. No one I've talked to, no one on Capitol Hill anyway, who's considering the bill or even expressing angst about the bill, as citing that as sort of a reason for their angst. And this is like in private conversations and with people that I trust and know that, if there was even a hint of that, I think I would have picked it up, or they would have just flat said it. So I just don't think that this is kind of material enough. Well, it's material to a lot of taxpayers. It's not material in a political sense that it's going to cause somebody who would otherwise have lost to win, nor is it going to cause someone who otherwise would have won to lose.
Rohit, one other political consideration: what ramifications, if any, might the outcome of this extenders bill, whether it passes or ultimately fails, what could that have on the 2025 larger tax questions with the much greater expirations of the TCJA provisions?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and one that I'm getting increasingly as I talk to folks. I sort of think of it in two ways. If this fails, for whatever reason, if it fails, then what it tells us is, for as difficult as we thought 2025 was going to be, it's going to be that much harder. I mean, relative to what's happening in 2025, this is but an amuse-bouche to what's coming at the end of next year. And so if it can't get this done, then 2025 is going to be really hard. On the flip side, if it gets done, then it's a good kind of training wheels exercise. Again, small compared to what's happening at the end of 2025, but evidence that in divided government, bipartisan results that, maybe the fringes on both parties don't support, but by and large, the middle supports, can get done. So it's not doesn't mean if we get it done here, we're going to absolutely have a smooth sailing in 2025. But the flip side, I think, is more true, which is if we don't get this done, then 2025, for as bumpy as the road we thought it was going to be, just that much bumpier.
Interesting. Great. Rohit, thank you so much for your insights. Appreciate you being with us. Safe flights.
All right, off to my flight. See ya.
Take care.
Thank you. For our viewers, you'll find a link to the latest Week in Review with Janice Mays, as well as an episode of Election Watch with Chairman Dave Camp. You will not want to miss that. And stay tuned for another Week in Review coming up this Friday.
Also be on the lookout for our interview with Craig Stromberg about the amount of risk companies face today. You won't want to miss that one either. Thank you for spending this time with us. Take care.